Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Helping Humanity Evolve. My name is Jose. I want to say thank you to all the people who've been watching and liking and subscribing my videos. I'm glad to have you. I'm glad you appreciate the content, and I hope to see I hope to see you up here soon, man. You should be up here doing your thing too, man. We all play a role in this. You feel me? So if I can inspire any of y'all to do this shit, man, let's go, boy. Let's go. Um, I love all of y'all. I love all of y'all, and I'm happy to be here. And we're gonna start this alien interview part two, right? So I'm gonna go on and press play, and we're gonna get it going. You heard? Let's get busy, man.
My education begins. Matilda O'Donnell McElroy personal note. By the 15th day after rescuing Errol from the crash site, I was able to communicate fluidly and effortlessly with her in English. She had absorbed so much more written material by this time that her academic education far exceeded my own. Although I graduated from high school in Los Angeles in 1940 and attended college for 4 years of pre-medical and nursing training, the variety of my own reading had
I
been
don't like
fairly
hybrid, man.
limited. I had not studied most of the subjects to which Errol had now been exposed, especially considering her acute understanding, very intense study habits, and a nearly photographic memory. She was able to recall long passages from books she read. She was especially fond of sections of her favorite stories from classic literature like The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn, Tales from Gulliver's Travels, and Peter Pan, and The Legend of Sleepy Hollow. By this time, Errol had become the teacher and I was the student. I was about to learn what men of Earth don't know and have no way of knowing. The throng of scientists and agents who observed us through the one-way glass of our interview room, whom Errol and I now referred to as the gallery, were growing increasingly impatient to ask her questions. But Errol continued to refuse to allow any questions to be asked of her by anyone other than myself, even vicariously through me as an interpreter or in writing. On the afternoon of the 16th day, Errol and I sat next to each other as she read. She closed the last page of a book she was reading and placed it aside. I was about to hand her the next book from a large pile waiting to be read when she turned and said, or thought to me, "I'm ready to speak now." At first I was a little confused by the remark. I gestured for her to continue, and she began to teach me my first lesson. Official transcript of interview, top secret. Official transcript of the U.S. Army Air Force, Roswell Army Airfield, 59th Bomb Group. Subject, alien interview, July 24th, 1947. First session. What would you like to say, Errol? I asked. I have been part of a domain expeditionary force in this sector of space for several thousand years. However, I have not personally had intimate contact with beings on Earth since 5965 BCE. It is not my primary function to interact with inhabitants of planets within the domain. I am an officer, pilot, and engineer with many duties to perform. Nonetheless, although I'm fluent in 347 other languages,
Bro, I want to pause this real quick. This nigga said, it is not my primary function to interact with inhabitants of planets within the domain. What is the domain? What is a domain? Isn't that like science computer shit? Like internet domain? World Wide Web shit? So so when if the universe is a domain, what does that mean? What does that mean? We a computer, bro? We inside a computer game? Are you serious?
within the domain, I have not been exposed to your English language. The last Earth language with which I was conversant was the Sanskrit language of the Vedic hymns. At that time, I was a member of a mission sent to investigate the loss of a domain base located in the Himalaya Mountains. An entire battalion of officers, pilots, communications, and administrative personnel disappeared and the base destroyed. Several million years ago, I was trained and served as an investigation, data evaluation, and program development officer for the domain. Because I was experienced in that technology, I was sent to Earth as part of a search team. One of my duties involved interrogation of the human population that inhabited the adjoining area at that time. Many of the people in that region reported sighting Vimanas, or spacecraft, in the area. Following the logical extension of evidence, testimony, observation, as well as the absence of certain evidence, I led my team to the discovery that there were still Old Empire ships and well-hidden Old Empire installations in this solar system of which we had been completely unaware. You and I were unable to communicate in your language because I personally have not been exposed to your language. However, now that I have scanned the books and the material you provided me, this data has been relayed to our space station in this region and processed by our communications officer through our computers. It has been translated into my own language and relayed back to me in a context that I can think with. I have also received additional information from the files stored in our computers about the English language and domain records concerning Earth civilization. Now I'm prepared to give you certain information that I feel will be of great value to you. I will tell you the truth. Although truth is relative to all other truth, I wish to share with you as honestly and accurately as possible truth as I see it within the boundaries of my integrity to myself, to my race, and without violating my obligations to the organization I serve and have sworn to uphold and protect. Okay, I thought. Will you answer questions from the gallery now? No, I will not answer questions. I will provide information to you that I think will be beneficial to the well-being of the immortal spiritual beings who comprise humanity, and that will foster the survival of all the myriad life forms and the environment of Earth, as it is a part of my mission to ensure the preservation of Earth. Personally, it is my conviction that all sentient...
This nigga said, listen to me, this nigga said, I will not answer your questions. I will provide information to you that I think will be beneficial to the well-being of the immortal spiritual beings who comprise humanity. You hear me? Immortal spiritual beings who comprise humanity. Anybody ever told you that you was an immortal spiritual being? But y'all niggas is fronting on spirituality? Bro, we spiritual. We supposed to be spiritual. That's what the fuck we are, man. But let's keep going. Let's keep going. This shit is crazy.
Beings are immortal spiritual beings. This includes human beings. For the sake of accuracy and simplicity, I will use a made-up word, is-be, because the primary nature of an immortal being is that we live in a timeless state of is, and the only reason for their existence is that they decide to be. No matter how lowly their station...
Hold on, we're going to break this shit down. This nigga said... I'm going to keep repeating what he said just, you know what I'm saying, for emphasis, right? So, he said, personally, it's my conviction that all sentient beings are immortal spiritual beings. This includes human beings. For the sake of accuracy and simplicity, I will use a made-up word. It's called is-be, right? Because the primary nature of an immortal being is that they live in a timeless state of is, right? A timeless state of is. And the only reason for their existence is that they decided to be, right? The only reason for their existence is that they decided to be. So we decided to do this shit. Bro, this shit is crazy.
In a society, every is-be deserves the respect and treatment that I myself would like to receive from others. Each person on Earth continues to be an is-be, whether they are aware of the fact or not. Matilda O'Donnell McElroy, personal note, I will never forget this.
Each person on Earth is an is-be, whether they know it or not. You hear that? Wow.
This conversation, her tone was very matter-of-fact and emotionless. However, for the first time I sensed the presence of a warm and real personality in Errol. Her reference to immortal spiritual beings struck me like a flash of light in a dark room. I had never before considered that a human being could be an immortal being. I thought that status or power was reserved solely for the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. And because I am a devout Catholic and subject to the word of the Lord Jesus and the Holy Father, I have never thought of a woman as an immortal spiritual being either, not even the Holy Mother Mary. Yet when Errol thought that thought, I became vividly aware for the first time that she personally was an immortal spiritual being, and so are we all. Errol said that she sensed that I was confused about the idea. She said she would demonstrate to me that I am also an immortal spiritual being. She said, "Be above your body." Immediately, I realized that I was outside of my body, looking down from the ceiling at the top of my body's head. I was also able to see the room around me, including Errol's body, sitting in the chair next to my own body. After a moment, I realized the simple but shocking reality that I am not a body. In that moment, a black veil lifted, and for the first time in my life, and for a very long time into the past, I realized that I am not my soul, but that I am me, a spiritual being. This was an unexplainable epiphany, but one that fills me with joy and relief I cannot recall having experienced ever before. As for the immortal part, I do not understand her meaning, as I have always been taught that I am not immortal, a spirit perhaps, but certainly not immortal. After a moment, I'm not sure how long, Errol asked me if I had a better understanding of the idea. Suddenly, I was back inside my body again and said out loud, "Yes, I see what you mean." I was so taken aback by the experience that I had to get up from my chair and walk around the room for a few minutes. I made an excuse that I needed to get a drink of water and go to the restroom, which I did. In the restroom, I looked at myself in the mirror. I used the toilet, refreshed my makeup, and straightened my uniform. After 10 or 15 minutes, I felt more normal again and returned to the interview room. After that, I felt as though I was no longer an interpreter for Errol. I felt as though I was a kindred spirit. I felt like I was safe at home with a trusted friend or a family member, as close as any I had ever had. Errol sensed and understood my confusion about the concept of personal immortality. She began her first lesson with me by explaining this to me. Official transcript of interview continued. Errol told me her reasons for coming to Earth and for being in the area of the 509th Bomber Squadron. She was sent by her superior officers to investigate the explosions of nuclear weapons, which have been tested in New Mexico. Her superiors ordered her to gather information from the atmosphere that could be used to determine the extent of radiation and potential harm this might cause to the environment. During her mission, the spacecraft was struck by a lightning, which caused her to lose control and crash. The spacecraft is operated by ISBs, who use doll bodies in much the same way that an actor wears a mask and costume. It is like a mechanical tool through which to operate in the physical world. She, as well as all the other ISBs of the officer class and their superiors, inhabit these doll bodies when they are on duty in space. When they are not on duty, they leave the body and operate, think, communicate, travel, and exist without the use of a body. The bodies are constructed of synthetic materials, including a very sensitive electrical nervous system to which each ISB adjusts themselves or tune in to an electronic wavelength that is matched uniquely to the wavelength or frequency emitted by each ISB. Each ISB is capable of creating a unique wave frequency which identifies them much like a radio signal frequency. This serves in part as identification like a fingerprint. The doll body acts like a radio receiver for the ISB. No two frequencies or doll bodies are exactly the
So, real quick, right? This nigga said each ISB adjusts themselves or tune in to an electronic wavelength that is matched uniquely to the wavelength of frequency or frequency emitted by each ISB. Each ISB is capable of creating a unique wave frequency which identifies them, much like a radio signal frequency. This serves in part as an identification like a fingerprint. The dial body acts like a radio receiver for the ISB. No two frequency or dial bodies are exactly the same. So we all have unique frequencies that we put out to identify ourselves to our people, right? Does anybody know how to do that? Like, how do I send out a 911 signal to my people? Because we got an emergency down here. Like, let's keep going, man.
The bodies of each ISB crew member are likewise tuned into and connected to a nervous system built into the spacecraft. The spacecraft is built in much the same way as the doll body. It is adjusted specifically to the frequency of each ISB crew member. Therefore, the craft can be operated by the thoughts or energy emitted by the ISB. It is really a very simple direct control system, so there are no complicated controls or navigation equipment on board the spacecraft. They operate as an extension of the ISB. When the lightning bolt struck the spacecraft, this caused a...
This nigga said the UFOs are tuned to the frequency of the ISB. So these things are made or created to the tune of the ISB, right? Which means that every ISB must have one of these, right? Because it's unique to your frequency. So where's mine? Where's yours? You know what I'm saying? Like, is there any way we can call it to us? Like in that old TV show Night Riders. Remember he used to like call Kit come by and the car pull up and shit. So you telling me if I spit out this frequency somehow, my shit is gonna come get me? Oh shit! All right, let's keep going.
Short circuit and consequently disconnected them from the control of the ship momentarily, which resulted in the crash. Errol was and still is an officer, pilot, and engineer in an expeditionary force, which is part of a space opera civilization, which refers to itself as the Domain. This civilization controls the vast number of galaxies, stars, planets, moons, and asteroids throughout an area of space that is approximately 1/4 of the entire physical universe. The continuing mission of her organization is to secure, control, and expand the territory and resources of the Domain. Errol pointed out that their own activities were very similar.
Hold on. Listen. They said this civilization, right? This domain, whatever their name is, right? The domain, right? This civilization, which refers to itself as the Domain, controls a vast number of galaxies, stars, planets, moons, asteroids throughout an area of space that is approximately 1/4 of the entire physical universe. Bro, 1/4 of the entire physical universe. You know how fucking big that is? The continuing mission of her organization is to secure, control, and expand the territory and resources of the Domain. What the fuck is the Domain? Like, what the fuck is like who like what is this place? What is this place? What the fuck is the Domain? They control 1/4 of the galaxy, bro. You know how big that is? Jesus Christ, bro.
In many ways to the European explorers who discovered and claimed the New World for the Holy Father, the Pope, and for the kings of Spain, Portugal, and later Holland, England, France, and so forth. Europe benefited from the property acquired from the native inhabitants. However, the native inhabitants were never consulted with or asked for their permission to become a part of the domain of the European nations and the soldiers and priests they sent to acquire territory and wealth in order to advance their interests. Errol said she read in a history book that the Spanish king regretted the brutal treatment of the native inhabitants by his soldiers. He feared retribution from the gods he worshipped, as described in the various testaments of the Bible. He asked the Pope to prepare a statement called the Requirement, which was supposed to be read to each of the newly encountered native inhabitants. The king hoped that the statement, whether it was accepted or rejected by the natives, would absolve the king of all responsibility for the resulting slaughter and enslavement of these people. He used this statement as justification to confiscate their lands and possessions by his soldiers and the Pope's priests. Apparently, the Pope, personally, did not have any feelings of guilt or responsibility in the matter. Errol thought that such actions were those of a coward, and that it is no surprise that the territory of Spain was diminished so quickly. Only a few years later, the king was dead, and his empire had been assimilated by other nations. Errol said that this sort of behavior does not occur in the Domain. Their leaders assume full responsibility for the actions of the Domain and would not denigrate themselves in this fashion, nor do they fear any gods or have any regret for their actions. This idea reinforces my earlier suggestion that Errol and her people are probably atheists. In the case of the acquisition...
Bro. Hold on. This kind of changes everything here, right? They protecting the Isbies. They here to protect the Isbies, right? Immortal spiritual beings. They here to protect the Isbies. So what exactly are Isbies? Immortal spiritual beings? Are they gods? Because this right here says their leaders assume full responsibility for the actions of the domain and would not denigrate themselves in this fashion, nor do they fear any gods. Nor do they fear any gods. Hold on. This changes shit, right? Because they here to protect the Isbies. But they do not fear the gods. Who are the gods? Then who are the gods? We the gods? Or we the Isbies? Which fucking one are we, man? Well, immortal spiritual beings. Wouldn't the Isbies be God? This is what I don't understand. They do not fear any gods, but they are Isbies. Aren't the Isbies gods? See, this is like, I have a lot of questions, man. I'm gonna have to ask these questions, bro, because it's crazy.
Of Earth by the domain, the rulers of the domain have chosen not to openly reveal this intention to their native inhabitants of Earth until a later time when it may or may not suit their interest to reveal themselves. For the present time, it is not strategically necessary to make the presence of the domain expeditionary force known to mankind. In fact, until now, it has been very aggressively hidden for reasons that will be revealed later. The asteroid belt near Earth is very small, but important location for the domain in this part of space. Actually, some of the objects in our solar system are very valuable for their use as low-gravity space stations. They are interested primarily in the low-gravity satellites in this solar system, which consists mainly of the side of the moon facing away from Earth and the asteroid belt, which is a planet that was destroyed billions of years ago, and to a lesser degree Mars and Venus. Dome structures synthesized from gypsum or underground bases covered by electromagnetic force fields are easily constructed to house the domain forces. Once an area of space is acquired by the domain and becomes a part of the territory under its control, it is treated as the property of the domain. The space station near the planet Earth is important only because it lay along the path of the domain expansion route toward the center of the Milky Way galaxy and beyond. Of course, everyone in the domain is aware of this, except for the people of Earth. Roswell, Alien Interview, Chapter 7, A Lesson in Ancient History. Matilda O'Donnell McElroy, personal note. My instruction with Errol continued through the night until dawn of the next morning. I must say that I was fascinated, skeptical, shocked, alarmed, dismayed, and disgruntled by the lesson I was getting from Errol. I could never have imagined any of what she was telling me, not even in my wildest dreams and nightmares. The next afternoon, after I had slept, showered, and eaten, I was debriefed about my interview session the previous evening by members of the gallery who recorded my account of what Errol told me. There was a stenographer present for this session as usual, to whom I debriefed after each interview, and there were also 6 or 7 men who asked for clarification of my statements. As always, there was constant pressure applied to me to use my influence with Errol to persuade her to answer specific questions prompted by members of the gallery. I did my best to reassure everyone that I would give my very best efforts to do so. Nevertheless, only 3 things happened every day thereafter. Errol resolutely refused to answer any questions that she sensed had been posed by or suggested to me by the gallery. 2. Errol continued to instruct me in the subject matter of her own choice. 3. Every evening after my interview with or instruction from Errol, she would give me a new list of subject matter about which she wanted more information. Each evening, I presented this list to the gallery. The next day, Errol received a large...
So, basically, whoever these people are that are in the gallery, right? They want Ariel, which is the alien, to answer certain questions, right? So they giving the nurse the questions to ask the alien, but the alien, when the alien senses that the question is not coming from the nurse and it's really coming from the gallery, the alien refused to answer the questions. and just continue to tell her whatever she wanted to tell her. You know what I'm saying? So the alien requested some information, like she wanted some books and shit. So the nurse went back to the gallery and told them like what the alien said. The alien said she wanted more books, so they got her more books, and they said that this went on for a while. You know what I'm saying? That she just stood up all night reading because she don't need no sleep and shit.
Stack of books, magazines, articles, and so forth. She would study all of these during the night while I slept. This pattern repeated every day during the remainder of the time I spent with her. The subject matter of my next interview or lesson from Errol continued with a brief history of Earth, our solar system, and nearby space from the perspective of the domain. Official transcript of interview, top secret. Official transcript of the U.S. Army Air Force Roswell Army Airfield 509th Bomb Group, subject alien interview, July 25, 1947, first session. Before you can understand the subject of history, you must first understand the subject of time. Time is simply an arbitrary measurement of the motion of objects through space. Space is not linear. Space is determined by point of view of an ISB when viewing an object. The distance between an ISB and the object being viewed is called space. Objects or energy masses in space do not necessarily move in a linear fashion. In this universe, objects tend to move randomly or in a curving or cyclical pattern, or as determined by agreed upon rules. History is not only a linear record of events, as many authors of Earth history books imply, because it is not a string that can be stretched out and marked like a measuring tool. History is a subjective observation of the movement of objects through space, recorded from the point of view of a survivor rather than those who succumbed.
That's crazy.
Events occur interactively and concurrently, just as the biological body has a heart that pumps blood while the lungs provide oxygen to the cells, which reproduce using energy from the sun and chemicals from plants at the same time as the liver strains toxic wastes from the blood and eliminates them through the bladder and the bowels. All of these interactions are concurrent and simultaneous. Although time runs consecutively, events do not happen in an independent linear stream. In order to view and understand the history or reality of the past, one must view all the events as part of an interactive whole. Time can also be sensed as a vibration, which is uniform throughout the entire physical universe. Errol explained that ISBs have been around since before the beginning of the universe. The reason that they are called immortal is because a spirit is not born and cannot die, but exists in a personally postulated perception of is, will be. She was careful to explain that every spirit is not the same. Each is completely unique in identity, power, awareness, and ability. The difference between an ISB like Errol and most of the ISBs inhabiting bodies on Earth is that Errol can enter and depart from her doll at will. She can perceive at selective depths through matter. Errol and other officers of the domain can communicate telepathically. Since an ISB is not a physical universe entity, it has no location in space or time. An ISB is literally immaterial. They can span great distances of space instantly. They can experience sensations more intensely than a biological body without the use of physical sensory mechanisms. An ISB can exclude pain from their perception. Errol can also remember her identity, so to speak, all the way back into the dim mists of time for trillions of years. She says that the existing collection of suns in this immediate vicinity of the universe have been burning for the last 200 trillion years.
Jesus Christ.
The age of the physical universe is nearly infinitely old, but probably at least 4 quadrillion years since its earliest beginnings. Time is a difficult factor to measure as it depends.
They said history started infinitely. That you can't go back X amount of years. You can't go back. He said 4 quadrillion, and it was just still already started. He said infinite, bro.
On the subjective memory of ISBs and there has been no uniform record of events throughout the physical universe since it began. As on Earth, there are many different time measurement systems defined by various cultures, which use cycles of motion and points of origin to establish age and duration. The physical universe itself is formed from the convergence and amalgamation of many other individual universes, each of which were created by an ISBE or group of ISBEs. The collision of these illusionary universes commingled and coalesced and were solidified to form a mutually created universe. Because it is agreed that energy and forms can be created but not destroyed, this creative process has continued to form an ever-expanding universe of nearly infinite physical proportions.
Wow.
Before the formation of the physical universe, there was a vast period during which universes were not solid but wholly illusionary. You might say that the universe was a universe of magic illusions, which were made to appear and vanish at the will of the magician. In every case, the magician was one or more ISBEs. Many ISBEs on Earth can still recall vague images from that period. Tales of magic, sorcery, and enchantment, fairy tales and mythology.
I think we the ISBEs. We the God. I think the ISBEs are the gods. The gods and ISBEs are the same. I think gods and ISBEs are the same. You heard what he just said, bro? Yo, listen, my last download, they said y'all need to group up. Y'all need to group up and put your McCurpers together so y'all can become stronger. And they said we got to do this around the world, right? So if you figure there's 7 continents, we need 7 groups, right? So let's just say 7 groups of 7 people. That's 49 people, right? We need 49 people to do this. But listen to what he just said, bro. He said, before the formation of the physical universe, there was a vast period during which universes were not solid, but wholly illusionary. You might say that the universe was a universe of magical illusions, which were made to appear and vanish at the will of the magician. Appear and vanish at the will of the magician, bro. In every case, the magician was one or more ISBEs. Bro, these shits go together, bro. That's all I'm saying.
Speak of such things, although in very crude terms. Each ISBE entered into the physical universe when they lost their own home universe. That is, when an ISBE's home universe was overwhelmed by the physical universe, or when the ISBE joined with other ISBEs to create or conquer the physical universe. On Earth, the ability to determine when an ISBE entered the physical universe is difficult for 2 reasons. 1, the memory of ISBEs on Earth have been erased, and 2, ISBE's arrival or invasion into the physical universe took place at different times, some 60 trillion years ago, and others only 3 trillion. Every once in a short while, a few million years, an area or planet will be taken over by another group of ISBEs entering into the...
Alright. This nigga just said, on Earth, the ability to determine when an ISBE entered the physical universe is difficult for 2 reasons. 1, the memory of ISBEs on Earth have been erased. The memory of the ISBEs on Earth have been erased. 2, ISBE's arrival or invasion into the physical universe took place at different times. 60 trillion years ago. Bro, 60 trillion years ago. And others only 3 trillion. Oh, only 3 trillion. Only 3 trillion. You only been here 3 trillion years, bro. What you tripping for? Some of us been here. Some of us been here for 60 trillion fucking years. Jesus Christ.
area. Sometimes they will capture other ISBEs as slaves. They will be forced to inhibit bodies to perform menial or manual work, especially in mining mineral ores on heavy gravity planets such as Earth. Errol says that she has been a member of the Domain Expeditionary Force for more than 625 million years, when she became a pilot for a biological survey mission, which included occasional visits to Earth. She can remember her entire career there and for a very long time before that. She told me that Earth scientists do not have an accurate measuring system to gauge the age of matter. They assume that because certain types of materials seem to deteriorate rather quickly, such as organic or carbon-based matter, that there is a deterioration of matter. It is not accurate to measure the age of stone based on the measurement of the age of wood or bone. This is a fundamental error. Factually, matter does not deteriorate. It cannot be destroyed. Matter can only be altered in form, but it is never truly destroyed. The Domain has conducted a periodic survey of the galaxies in this sector of the universe since it developed space travel technologies about 80 trillion years ago. A review of changes in the complexion of Earth revealed that mountain ranges rise and fall, continents change location, the poles of the planet shift, ice caps come and go, oceans appear and disappear, rivers, valleys, and canyons change. In all cases, the matter is the same. It is always the same sand. Every form and substance is made of the same basic materials which never deteriorates. Matilda O'Donnell McElroy, personal note. I cannot even begin to imagine how advanced a civilization may have become technically and mentally after trillions of years. Just think of how advanced our own country has become compared to only 150 years ago.
All right,
only a few generations ago, transportation was on foot, horseback, or boat.
Hold on. Let's talk about this for 1 second, right? These niggas said the Domain did something 80 trillion years ago. 80 trillion years ago. Now think about what do we know about the history, about our history, right? How far back do we go, right? How far back do we really go, man? Think, really, honestly. How far back do we really go? The 1700s? How much do you know about the 1700s? Do any of us know much about the 1700s? I'm just curious. Honestly, bro, there might be a handful. Many of us don't know shit about the 1700s, bro. And that's only fucking 300 years ago. Or maybe more. Maybe my math is off. But still, the 1700 to the year 2000. 17, 18, 19, 20, bro. This nigga said 80 trillion. 80 trillion. And they don't die. She said she worked for this agency for 680 million years. What the fuck? Bro, she got the same job for 680 million years. And you immortal. So your job is to be down here doing what? What's your job supposed to be? Like, are we supposed to just come down here and be a slave to somebody else's fucking, whatever, and then die and then just keep doing it again and again and again? That's crazy, man. I want to live to be 80 trillion. Or, if I've been here that long, let me fucking remember, bro. Holy shit, man.
Reading was done by candlelight. Heating and cooking were done over a fireplace, and there wasn't any indoor plumbing. Official transcript of interview. Errol described the abilities of an SB officer of the Domain to me, and she demonstrated one to me when she contacted telepathically a communications officer of the Domain who was stationed in the asteroid belt. The asteroid belt is composed of thousands of broken up pieces of a planet that once existed between Mars and Jupiter. It serves as a good low-gravity jumping-off point for incoming spacecraft traveling toward the center of our galaxy. She requested that this officer consult information stored in the files of the Domain concerning the history of Earth. She asked the communications officer to feed this information to Errol. The communications officer immediately complied with the request. Based on the information stored in the files of the Domain, Errol was able to give me a brief overview of our history lesson. This is what Errol told me that the domain had observed about the history of Earth. She told me that the Domain Expeditionary Force first entered into the Milky Way galaxy very recently, only about 10,000 years ago. The first action was to conquer the home planets of the Old Empire. This is not the official name, but a nickname given to the conquered civilization by the Domain forces that served as the seat of central government for this galaxy and other adjoining regions of space. These planets are located in the stars systems in the tail of the Big Dipper constellation. She did not mention which stars exactly. About 1,500 years later, the Domain began the installation bases for their own forces along the path of invasion which leads towards the center of the galaxy and beyond. About 8,200 years ago, the Domain forces set up a base on Earth in the Himalaya Mountains near the border of modern Pakistan and Afghanistan. This was a base for the battalion of the Domain Expeditionary Force, which included about 3,000 members. They set up a base under or inside the top of the mountain. The mountaintop was drilled into and made hollow to create an area large enough to house the ships and personnel of that force. An electronic illusion of the mountaintop was created to hide the base by projecting a false image from inside the mountain against a force screen. The ships could then enter and exit through the force screen, yet remain unseen by Homo sapiens. Shortly after they settled there, the base was surprised by an attack from a remnant of the military forces of the old empire. Unbeknownst to the Domain, a hidden underground base on Mars, operated by the old empire, had existed for a very long time. The Domain base was wiped out by a military attack from the Mars base, and the ISBs of the Domain Expeditionary Force were captured. You can imagine that the Domain was very upset about losing such a large force of officers and crew, so they sent other crews to Earth to look for them. Those crews were also attacked. The captured ISBs from the Domain forces were handled in the same fashion as all other ISBs who have been sent to Earth. They were each given amnesia, had their memories replaced with false pictures and hypnotic commands, and sent to Earth to inhabit biological bodies. They are still a part of the human population today.
Yo, bro. Yo, bro. Bro. Bro.
The captured ISBs from the Domain forces.
Bro. So this is the fucking story. Wow. Wow, man. This is the story. Shortly after they settled there, the base was surprised by an attack from a remnant of the military forces of the old empire. Unbeknownst to the Domain, a hidden underground base on Mars operated by the old empire had existed for a very long time. The Domain base was wiped out by a military attack from the Mars base, and the ISBs of the Domain Expeditionary Force were captured. They were captured, bro. You know who they was? Guess who they was? Guess who they was? Right? So you can imagine that the Domain was very upset about losing such a large force of officers and crew. So they sent they sent other craft to Earth to look for them. Those crews were also attacked. The captured ISBs from the Domain forces were handled in the same fashion as all the other ISBs who have been sent to Earth. They were each given amnesia, had their memories replaced with false pictures and hypnotic commands, and sent to Earth to inhabit.
Were handled in the same fashion as all other ISBs who have been sent to Earth. They were each given amnesia, had their memories replaced with false pictures and hypnotic commands, and sent to Earth to inhabit biological bodies.
To inhabit biological bodies, and they are still part of the human race today. Today. That's us, bro. We the fucking ISBs that got trapped down in this motherfucker, man. That's why the ships won't leave, bro.
are still a part of the human population
Holy
today.
shit, this is
After
crazy.
a very persistent and extensive investigation into the loss of their crews, the domain discovered that Old World Empire has been operating a very extensive and very carefully hidden base of operations in this part of the galaxy for millions of years. No one knows exactly how long. Eventually, the spacecraft of the Old Empire forces and the domain engaged each other in open combat in the space of the solar system. According to Errol, there was a running battle between the Old Empire forces and the domain until about 1235 AD, when the domain forces finally destroyed the last of the spacecraft of the Old Empire force in this area. The Domain Expeditionary Force lost many of its own ships in this area during that time also. About 1,000 years later, the Old Empire base was discovered by accident in the spring of 1914 AD.
Chapter 7, Part 2.
About 1,000 years later, the Old Empire base was discovered by accident in the spring of 1914 AD. The discovery was made when the body of the Archduke of Austria was taken over by an officer of the Domain Expeditionary Force. This officer, who was stationed in the asteroid belt, was sent to Earth on a routine mission to gather reconnaissance. The purpose of this takeover was to use the body as a disguise through which to infiltrate human society in order to gather information about current events on Earth. The officer, as an Isby, having greater power than the being inhabiting the body of the Archduke, simply pushed the being out and took over control of the body. However, this officer did not realize how much the Habsburgs were hated by feuding factions in the country, so he was caught off guard when the body of the Archduke was assassinated by the Bosnian student. The officer, or Isby, was suddenly knocked out of the body when it was shot by the assassin. Disoriented, the Isby inadvertently penetrated one of the Amnesia Force screens and was captured. Eventually, the domain discovered that a wide area of space is monitored by an electronic force field which controls all of the Isbys in this end of the galaxy, including
Wow.
Earth. The electronic force screen...
There's a force field on some part of the galaxy that if we go over there, we get trapped in it. And it sends us back to Earth and wipes our memory, bro. Holy shit.
Is designed to detect Isbys and prevent them from leaving the area. If an Isby attempts to penetrate the force screen, it captures them in a kind of electronic net. The result is that the captured Isby is subjected to very severe brainwashing treatment, which erases the memory of the Isby. This process uses a tremendous electrical shock, just like the Earth psychiatrists use electrical shock therapy to erase the memory and personality of a patient and to make them more cooperative. On Earth, this therapy uses only a few hundred volts of electricity. However, the electrical voltage used by the Old Empire operation against Isbys is on the order of magnitude of billions of volts. This tremendous shock completely wipes out all the memory of the Isby. The memory eraser is not just for one life or one body. It wipes out all the accumulated experiences of a nearly infinite past, as well as the identity of the Isby.
That's crazy.
The shock was intended to make it impossible for the Isby to remember who they are, where they came from, their knowledge or skills, their memory of the past, and ability to function as a spiritual entity. They're overwhelmed into becoming a mindless, robotic non-entity.
You hear that shit?
As well as the identity.
The shock is intended to make it impossible for the Isbys to remember who they are, where they came from, their knowledge or skills, their memory from the past, and the ability to function as a spiritual entity. They are overwhelmed into becoming a mindless, robotic non-entity, bro.
Of the Isby. The shock was intended to make it impossible for the Isby to remember who they are, where they came from, their knowledge or skills, their memory of the past, and ability to function as a spiritual entity. They're overwhelmed into becoming a mindless, robotic non-entity. After the shock, a series of post-hypnotic suggestions are used to install false memories and a false time orientation in each Isby. This includes the command to return to the base after the body dies, so that the same kind of shock and hypnosis can be done again and again and again forever. The hypnotic
After the shock, a series of post-hypnotic suggestions are used to install false memories and a false time orientation in each ISB. This includes the command to return to base after the body dies, so that the same kind of shock and hypnosis can be done again and again and again forever. The hypnotic command also tells the patient to forget to remember. To forget to remember. They don't want you to remember.
command also tells the patient to forget to remember. What the domain learned from the experience of this officer is that the old empire has been using Earth as a prison planet for a very long time. Exactly how long is unknown, perhaps millions of years. So when the body of the ISB dies, they depart from the body. They are detected by the force screen, they are captured, and ordered by hypnotic command to return to the light. The idea of heaven and the afterlife are part of the hypnotic suggestion, a part of the treachery which makes the whole mechanism work. After the ISB has been shocked and hypnotized to erase the memory of the life just lived, the ISB is immediately commanded hypnotically to report back to the earth as though they were on a secret mission to inhabit a new body. Each ISB is told that they have a special purpose for being on Earth, but of course there is no purpose for being in a prison, at least not for the prisoner. Any undesirable ISBs who are sentenced to Earth were classified as untouchable by the old empire. This included anyone that the old empire judged to be criminals who were too vicious to be reformed or subdued, as well as other criminals such as sex perverts or beings unwilling to do any productive work. An untouchable classification of ISBs also includes a variety of political prisoners. This includes ISBs who are considered to be non-compliant freethinkers or revolutionaries who make trouble for the governments of the various planets of the old empire. Of course, anyone with a previous military record against the old empire is also shipped off to Earth. A list of untouchables includes artists, painters, singers, musicians, writers, actors, and performers of every kind. For this reason, Earth has more artists per capita than any other planet in the old empire.
Wow.
Untouchables also include intellectuals, inventors, and geniuses in almost every field. Since everything the old empire considers valuable has long since been invented or created over the last few trillion years, they have no further use for such beings. This includes skilled managers also, which are not needed in a society of obedient robotic citizens. Anyone who is not willing or able to submit to mindless economic, political, and religious servitude as a tax-paying worker in the class system of the old empire are untouchable and sentenced to receive memory wipeout and permanent imprisonment on Earth. The next result is...
Bro, bro, look, listen to this. Listen to this. Anyone who is not willing or able to submit to mindless economic, political, and religious servitude as a tax-paying worker in the class system of the old empire are untouchable and sentenced to receive memory wipes. Right?
But an ISB is unable to escape because they can't remember who they are, where they came from, where they are. They have been hypnotized to think that they are...
Permanent imprisonment on Earth. Bro, permanent imprisonment on Earth. That means after you die, right? After you die, even if you wanted to go home, you're gonna get caught in the net. Cause do you know how to navigate space? Do you know how to navigate space? Do you know where the net is at? Like, do you know what part of space you're not supposed to go to? Does anybody know? Cause I got a feeling we don't know. I got a real strong feeling we don't know, man.
Someone, something, sometime, and somewhere other than where they really are. The domain officer who was assassinated while in the body of Archduke of Austria was likewise captured by the old empire force. Because this particular officer was a high-powered ISB compared to most, he was taken away to a secret old empire base under the surface of the planet Mars. They put him into a special electronic prison cell and held him there. Fortunately, this domain officer was able to escape from the underground base after 27 years in captivity. When he escaped from the old Empire base, he returned immediately to his own base in the asteroid belt. His commanding officer ordered that a battle cruiser be dispatched to the coordinates of that base provided by this officer and to destroy that base completely. This old Empire base was located a few hundred miles north of the equator on Mars in the Cydonia region. Although the military base of the old Empire was destroyed, unfortunately, much of the vast machinery of the ISB-4 screens, the electroshock, amnesia, hypnosis machinery, continues to function in other undiscovered locations right up to the present moment. The main base or control center for this mind control prison operation has never been found, so the influences of this base or bases are still in effect.
Hold on. So this mind control shit they got, or whatever, this fucking Soul Track, whatever the fuck they talking about. They never discovered the location, right? They can't find it, so it's still in effect. It's still in effect. It's still doing what it's supposed to do. That's why we still trapped here. That's crazy, man. How we can't find it? It's on Mars?
Has observed that since the old Empire
Is it on Mars?
space forces were destroyed, there is no one left to actively prevent other planetary systems from bringing their own untouchable ISBs to Earth from all over this galaxy and from other galaxies nearby. Therefore, Earth has become a universal dumping ground for this entire region of space. This in part explains the very unusual mix of races.
So what these niggas do is all the civilizations across all the worlds, across all the ones in this galaxy, right? All the planets that have beings on them, they send the worst of the worst to Earth. They even send the actors, the actresses, the geniuses. They send everybody here. They said they don't need them no more. They like trillions of years ahead of their time. So the people that they just feel like, yo, we don't really want these niggas around no more, they send them to Earth. Or some of us got trapped here doing a mission. Or some of us just got sent here because we was talking against the government too much, you know what I'm saying? Or doing what we do and we wasn't following orders. You feel me? We ain't want to live the way they told us to live. So we got put on Earth. Alright, you don't want to listen, go over there. And you're never gonna remember what you are because we're not gonna let you. Wow.
Cultures, languages, moral codes, religious and political influences among the ISB population on Earth. The number and variety of heterogeneous societies on Earth are extremely unusual on a normal planet. Most Sun Type 12 Class 7 planets are inhabited by only one humanoid body type or race, if any. In addition, most of the ancient civilizations of Earth and many of the events of Earth have been heavily influenced by the hidden hypnotic operation of the old Empire base. So far, no one has figured out exactly where and how this operation is run, or by whom, because it is so heavily protected by screens and traps. Furthermore, there has been no operation undertaken to seek out, discover, and destroy the vast and ancient network of electronics machinery that create the ISB-4 screens at this end of the galaxy. Until this has been done, we are not able to prevent or interrupt the electric shock operation, hypnosis, and remote thought control.
He said, furthermore, there has been, wait, let me start before that. He said, in addition, most of the ancient civilizations of Earth and many of the events of Earth have been heavily influenced by the hidden hypnotic operation of the old Empire base. So far, no one has figured out exactly where and how this operation is run, by whom, because it is so heavily protected by screens and traps. Furthermore, there have been no operations undertaken to seek out, discover, and destroy the vast and ancient network or electronics machinery that create the ISB-4 screens at this end of the galaxy. Until this has been done, we are not able to prevent or interrupt the electric shock operation, hypnosis, and remote thought control. Remote thought control, bro. You hear this shit, man? Remote thought control, bro. That means they could change the way you thinking. Like somehow, nigga. What the fuck? Man, listen.
Of the old
What
Empire
are
prison
we?
planet. Of course, all the crew members of the Domain Expeditionary Force now remain aware of this phenomena at all times while operating in this solar system space so as to prevent detection and the capture by old Empire traps. Roswell, Alien Interview, Chapter 8, A Lesson in Recent History.
Oh, alright, hold on.
McElroy, personal note.
We're gonna stop it. We're gonna stop this one right here. I'm gonna do part 3 for y'all tomorrow, man. Yo, this is a crazy fucking interview, bro. Like, I'm really upset right now, bro, because why are we in prison? Why are we in prison, bro? This interview was in 1947. Yo, bro, this interview was in 1947. It just came out. They just released it. This is what the alien told us. The alien's not lying. This is facts. I can't present it to you as facts because at the end of the day, who knows? Who the fuck knows, bro? But holy shit, man. This is what we are, bro. Immortal spiritual beings. And nobody told us. Nobody told us, man. And every time we die, we try to go somewhere, we try to escape, we get caught up in the trap. And we come right back. And they wipe your shit again. And make you start over, bro. That's why I wanted to watch this with y'all, man, because when I first watched this shit, bro, I was so fucking mad, man. Because what the fuck? Who's the Domain? What is the Domain? What is a Domain? What the fuck is a Domain? Somebody tell me what a Domain is. Why do we live in something like this? What is this? What is this place? And if we're fucking immortal, why I gotta be trapped here? Who makes the rules? Let's just say we gods. We gods. We the Isbies. Alright. Isbies, are Isbies like evil immortal beings? And then gods are the good, you know what I'm saying? Gods are the good ones? And Isbies are the bad ones? Is that like, are Isbies the demons? And gods are the fucking angels? Like, or are Isbies and gods the same? You know what I'm saying? Like talk to me here, man. Like this shit is crazy, man. Anyway, we're gonna get deeper into this shit, man. Let me know what y'all think about this in the comments, man. Please like and subscribe, bro. I love all of y'all, man. I hope y'all enjoy the rest of y'all evening. I'll see y'all on the next one.